Welcome to Star Citizen, the Alpha 3.11 and a slightly different beginner's guide. Today we don't just look at Star Citizen from A to Z, that is for absolute beginners who still create an account or download the game and then take the first steps. No, today it is also about how you as a beginner with a starter ship or a weaker ship can still earn good UEC in the verse. And here we look at possibilities that are not only fun but can also generate really good profits. As always, I recommend that you simply use the timestamps to jump to the time marker in the video and choose the area that is relevant for you. And maybe there is a hint or an idea for one or the other experienced player which he can implement for himself. We start with the creation of an account, then a recommendation which game package I think is a good and a recommendable, the installation, the first start, how to move, how to get to your ship, and the first time starting from a planet. At the end we start our first combat missions and activate the bounty hunter career first. And in the last part we look at how we can earn some good UEC very quickly with a starter ship. As a basic requirement to be able to play at all, be it in a free flight event or regularly, we need an account. And here we go to robotspaceindustries.com and the account creation. Of course you can also use the link which I linked you in the description, there you come directly to the account creation. And most important, use a referral code. You can use mine which I have linked for it, however if you have a friend use this referral code. This is definitely important because otherwise you have 5000 UEC less in the game to start and the whole thing is a bit more difficult, or with the code you make the start easier and you will definitely have something of it yourself. The creation of an account is completely free and does not involve any purchase. And for a free fly event it is enough if you create an account here and then use it for a free fly event. But what is the referral program? The referral program gives you as a new player 5000 UEC. These are in-game currency units and have a value of around $5. Whoever provides you with this code also has smaller in-game advantages. In any case, there is a disadvantage for neither party. If you go to play now with an account you have created, you will find the game package selection here. A game package is absolutely necessary to be able to play this unless there is a free fly event. Then you have limited time to try out the whole game for free, even without this game package. These events are only once or twice a year and the next event will probably take place in November. There are a large number of game packages and I can definitely recommend the cheapest one. The Aurora MR starter package with the Star Citizen download, that means you access to the game and 1000 UEC start money. The next higher price level for $69 is the Origin 100 package, which offers slightly better conditions, but these are only marginal. However, my recommendation if you want to spend a little more money is $80 as a starter package for the Avenger Titan, or then $133 for the Cutlass Black. These two ships are already more than starter ships and open up more possibilities for you in the game in the long run. The next topic is the single player expansion Squadron 42, which costs about $52 per unit. There are also starter packages where the single player extension is already included. Here for $75 as an Aurora MR starter package, or currently $110 as an Origin 135C package. If you want to play the single player campaign, it is worth buying the whole thing in one package because you save here. When you have finished creating your account and have at least one game package, you can download the launcher. When your download is finished, you will get this view of the launcher. Here we have the live version and the test version if it's released. With a click on launch we start the game and begin with our guide. Welcome to the main menu. Here we have the choice between three different options: the Persistent Universe, Star Marine and the Arena Commander. Star Marine and Arena Commander are extra modules. Here we are in a closed area for short action, either as a shooter environment or as a dogfight module. Fast action is definitely given here, but today we are interested in the Persistent Universe and come straight to the character creation. Here we have relatively many options and can spend a lot of time adapting our character and designing it according to our wishes. But at this point a tip: don't waste too much time creating your character. We sometimes have to deal with bugs and here we have to recreate our character as a workaround. Then we would have done the work for nothing. But we can also create an appealing character with relatively few clicks, and we don't have to spend long here. With a click on accept, we have created the character and come to the next selection screen. Currently there is the Stanton system as a playable area, a system with many planets and moons. And here we have several options. Here we can select the server location, and I would recommend you to leave it on the best, because then the game picks out the best server for your location. Here we have already selected the Stanton system. Alternatively, you can also use the hangar module to view your ships in a protected environment just for you. However, we want to go into the persistent universe here, and here we have 3 spawn options: Area 18, Lowville or New Babbage. All 3 differ visually and also from the layout of the cities. We spawn for this guide in Lowville, and welcome to Star Citizen. You have arrived in the persistent universe. With the mouse you can look around and change your perspective. However, nothing happens at first with the movement keys or the space key. To get up, we press the Z key. This button is assigned by default and should be remembered, as it comes out of all seats, towers or pilot seats. But first of all, the basic controls. Like in an ego shooter or other games, we walk around with the movement keys and the mouse to look around. With the mouse we can determine the direction of view, and with the movement buttons we can run forwards, backwards, right and left. In addition to the ego perspective, there is also an outside perspective, the third person view. We can toggle this by pressing the F4 key, and if we press F4 again, it switches through until we are back into the ego view. Here too we have the option to fix our camera or to position it differently, for example to get a different perspective or take screenshots. But more on that later. First of all, we interact by pressing the F key. We get to see a mouse pointer, and this changes depending on what we select. With the border we have the information that we can interact with the object. In addition, in this interaction mode we can zoom in or out by operating the mouse wheel. The whole thing helps us, for example, to identify distant objects or to look for the way. In interaction mode and a click on the mouse button, we then enter this option, which is displayed to us in order. For example, we made the coffee here and it's now freshly made for us. If we are in interaction mode and are not given any borders or options, then the item cannot currently be used. Our coffee is ready and we have several options to choose from. So here we use carry to wear, and if we want to drink here now, for example, we get the message that we still have a helmet on. Star Citizen is a simulation, and we will see that in several areas. We have now called up the radial menu by pressing the F key and clicking the right mouse button. Here we have taken off our helmet and can now drink coffee too. We look at our hand and the coffee, and if we now select the drink option, our character will drink his coffee. This is not just a visual issue, it also has an impact on our fluid balance. Mechanisms such as eating and drinking as well as heat and cold are currently implemented, but they do not yet have an extreme effect. Mechanisms such as eating and drinking as well as heat and cold are currently implemented, but they do not have an extreme effect. It looks different here when we go into extreme ambient temperatures. We need appropriate projective equipment, otherwise we can blast the temporal relatively quickly or simply cannot see anything. Our coffee is slowly empty and we take a look at what we can do with the mug. Depending on the item we have different options. Here we can drop it with the drop option, for example. With the option inspect we examine the object more closely, or with the option place we place the object in a targeted manner. However, we are not here to place coffee cups, but to fly spaceships. We open the door again by holding down the F key and click with the mouse button. We will also find that several times in the game that we always have to interact directly with doors, elevators or other objects. And for this you have to hold down the F key and click with the mouse. Also here, one thing in advanced. What we see here is the game world as we can explore it afterwards. That means if another player flies by here, then we see that. These are not placeholders and the weather and visibility conditions are simulated realistically. That means depending on the position of the sun as well as sunrise and sunset, it will be light and dark, or the weather will thwart our calculations, and we have, for example, a sandstorm and which we cannot longer see anything. But we come to movement control. With the mouse wheel we can scroll up and down and thus increase or decrease the speed of our character. This is particularly relevant when we have a delivery box in hand, for example. We can get the most out of this with the mouse wheel and our character does not creep away. We see an exit sign and an elevator control. Because we are close enough and hold down the F key, we can call the elevator. This will come, but it can take sometimes a minute. Simulation and so. Press the F key again and we get a selection menu. We go to the ground floor. And we have arrived at the ground floor, and when you press F4 you get to the outside view as I said. You can move around depending on what you like better. We leave the apartment building and now make our way to the spaceport. We have already been shown the teaser spaceport. This is not far away, but we can't walk there. The whole thing would be too far and we take a train that goes here. Even the sun, for example, which we can still see setting here, is not a backdrop but moves depending on the time. We follow the path and at the first junction we turn left in the direction of the lightning. I recommend that you always watch out for signs, because we have to find our way around ourselves and find out routes and, for example, railway lines ourselves. We want to go to the spaceport, for example. That's why we take the blue line. We follow the corridor and come to the next level. For example, there is a junction into the perimeter line where we come to the outskirts of the city. However, we want to get to our ship and therefore off to the spaceport. As Star Citizen is a simulation, as I said, we are not simply teleported to the spaceport or landed in space at the touch of a button. No, we'll take a train first. We have to get on board, sit down here and enjoy the train ride. To get up again, we press the Z key or just look around to the right and left with activated F press. Then we get an indication menu where we can get up. This is also the case in other areas such as a ship. This means that when we are sitting in a ship or in a vehicle, we can also call up the interaction menu by pressing the F key, and by turning it into the right or left, we usually have the option to leaving the pilot's chair or the vehicle. Depending on the city and destination, the train journey takes 1 or 2 minutes and we'll shorten it a bit. We have arrived at the spaceport. Again, we pay attention to the signs. That means exit is the direction we want to go, and look where we can get our ship from. At the beginning it gives the impression that the whole thing is very unstructured, difficult and complicated. But if you have been to a spaceport a few times, then you know the way and the whole thing becomes a lot easier. Here we are now in the main hall of the spaceport. New Deal is a shop for ships. That means we can buy spaceships, and we can even take a look at everything that can be bought here. That is, for example, the hangar of New Deal, where we can look at the ships and ultimately also buy them. However, at the beginning we don't have enough money to even begin to buy a ship, and that's why we are looking for these consoles here. We can pick up our ships at the vehicle retrieval consoles. These are then brought to a hangar or pad. Here again the reference to the signs. There it goes to the elevators and ultimately to the hangar. And that is exactly what we need right now. When we open the console, we see all the ships that are currently available to us. That is, which are ours. With a click on retrieve, we get the ship delivered to a hangar, which the console shows us. Hangar 9, and also over the marker of the ship we find the hangar where our ship is. Also here we take the elevator again to get to our ship. It is important to remember where our ship is, because if we choose the wrong one, we will drive a few hundred meters in the wrong direction. Our ship is already prepared for us. That means it is in the hangar and we can get on and take off. However, the first hook here is often that they're sold for newcomers, where you don't know what to do next. How do I get the hangar doors open? Of course, we look at each other as well as the question of how we get into our ship as all. This is different for each ship. Some ships can only have one cockpit in the interior, which means we climb into our ship, so to speak, but with this 125A we have access on the side. With the key F and interact, the doors open and we get into the interior. Depending on the ship, there are also more interaction possibilities and options that we have. In this starter ship, the 125A, we have an interior. That means we can go to bed, for example, and this bed is one of the big pluses for every starter ship. We can log in and log out in the ship. That means we don't always have to go to the spaceport, but can use the ship as a spawn point. Here, for example, we can act and get a glimpse of our small cargo hold and our ship components. When we choose the bed, we can either sit down or lie down. But if we get the option to log us out by pressing the F key. Logging in then works automatically. That is, if you have logged out of your ship, then you log in again automatically. We first took a seat in the pilot's chair. And now the first question, our ship is out and we can't find an ignition key. Therefore, we press the F key again and can interact. With a click on Flight Ready, our systems also start up. In the 100 series in particular, we get all the buttons animated that are currently available and can currently be selected. Of course, there are also keyboard shortcuts for all functions, and to make our ship flight ready, press either the switch or the button R. And this is how you make all ships or vehicles ready for use, and our ship starts what we only see acoustically, but also optically. The HUD appears and the multifunction displays become visible. These are the small screens that we can configure according to our wishes. Directly below our HUD we have a small 3D radar which we can display targets and planets. The HUD is divided into different areas. At the beginning the whole thing may seem a bit confusing, but we will go into it again later in detail. However, let's take a first look at our menu, our MobiGlass. When you press the F1 key, you enter the menu and you have the option to communicate with friends on the far left with the comlink option. You can also see all the players of the server and the chat here, and you can have a relatively large number of options and settings directly on your MobiGlass. By the way, we reach the game menu via the escape key. Here we are in the loadout manager, for example, and see which parts are installed in our ship. We can change that, however, was a previous version of the game was still possible. However, in the equipment manager we can put our helm back down here. We definitely need it when we leave the atmosphere or our ship, which offers its own atmosphere. With one press of the F4 key or in our MobiGlass on the skyline, we get to the navigation menu. In this screen we can plan a route and use the mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. Here we see the entire Stanton system which is currently available. By pressing the left mouse button and moving the mouse we can tilt or rotate the map, and with the right mouse button pressed we can move the map. We are currently on Hurston, what is shown to us by the line, and if we want to go to Ariel, for example, we can click on it and create a route. We see here we need 0.52 of our fuel out of total 700 for this route. That means if the range of our ship is not sufficient to get to the point, you have to make a stopover. However, we are planning a route when we are in space and first look at the next options. With the Mode Trader we can send money, and with the Contract Manager we can fulfill or accept orders. LiveWorks AR is currently not working, and the maintenance service we can refuel and repair our ship as well as add ammunition. But we want to start clearance. In the comlink on the far left we go to Friends and see the landing service. If we contract him by pressing the button, he gives us a start clearance. And if we now look up while holding down the F key, we can see how the hangar gates open and we can finally take off. To fly straight up or to give thrust, we simply press the spacebar and our ship makes an upward movement. As soon as we are out of the hangar, stop. Because there is a landing or takeoff corridor which we must adhere to. Therefore we will take a closer look at it. With the F4 key we can go back to the outside view, and with the mouse we can turn the whole thing. But to turn you have to press the Y key as well. For example, we see the game chat here, which we can turn off and on again with the F12 key. The whole thing offers a bit more immersion when hidden, but of course we don't have any information. It's up to you what is most comfortable for you. We are now looking for the option to retract our landing gear because it's still extended. And you can do the whole thing either with the toggle switch or by pressing the N key. Our landing gear retracts and we can finally take off. You can also extend and retract the landing gear at any time by pressing the N button or the toggle switch. Your landing gear will automatically retract it at least at the quantum jump. By turning the mouse, we can turn the nose of our ship in another direction, up, down, right and left. And we already see the landing or start corridor. We have to use this because otherwise the autopilot will intervene, or if we can no longer use it, it will explode. We can fly our ship in the outside view and have no restrictions here, but HUD elements such as our corridors are not displayed there. Therefore we have to switch into the ego perspective to start. With the spacebar we gain altitude again, and the pendant would be the control button. With the control button we give a push downwards. However, depending on which planet or moon we are on, we also have the force of gravity, which moves us downwards. Basically, it can be said that it's always faster downwards than upwards. We now direct ourselves to our starting corridor and push straight forward by pressing the W key. If we move the mouse or our joystick now, then we can bring our ship into the right direction and follow the start corridor from the surface. The number 221 in the middle of the left shows our speed in meters per second, and on the right we see the current altitude. The altitude is only displayed when we are in the area of a planet, which is automatically deactivated when the atmosphere is reached. We push left and right with the A and D keys, and with the Q and E keys we roll our ship. If you should use a joystick or HOTAS, you of course also have the option to move your ship accordingly. Pressing the F4 key brings us back to the outside view, and if we hold down the Y key and move the mouse again, we get a different perspective. Here, for example, we are currently seeing another player who is also shown us as a target point in the interior view. In order to leave the planet faster, we take the nose further up to about 90 degrees, which we get here by the numbers of the right and left in blue. We have about 90-degree angle away from the planet and a maximum incline. Depending on the ship you have more or less power, and sometimes it is not possible to take off from a planet as steeply with every ship. Here we are already at a relative high altitude, and by pressing the F key and the mouse wheel we can also zoom in here and see a celestial body or the space station above the planet. We have now activated the autopilot or the cruise control with C, which automatically maintains the speed that we set up or down with the mouse wheel, which is shown to us as a white line. The red or orange line is the recommended maximum speed for space combat, or the speed at which we have the maximum mobility and agility. The number of the left in the circle is our thruster utilization. If we give a boost or even the afterburner with the shift key, we see that it increased to 120%. The number of the left in the circle is our thruster utilization. If we give a boost or even the afterburner with the shift key, we see that it increased to 120%. And depending on the ship and equipment, it can overheat relatively quickly. As here it turns yellow, and that means we should switch off. If we don't do that, the whole thing will turn red and our engines will fail completely. However, after a few seconds these catch up again and we can continue our way. Here we reduce our speed again, for example, and take another look at the other options. Here we see our G-forces as a number with the point as a direction, the landing gear, coupled mode and ESP. Flares availability in the HUD, and here again the height. In the lower area on this page we can see our fuel capacity and the quantum fuel tank, and also several target options, for example whether we are recorded as a target. Last but not least, the number of missiles. In the lower area we have the Origin 3D radar, which not all ships have. Some also have a 2D radar, which is why we no longer go into the option of route planning with Origin ships. Basically, we plan our routes using the Skyline Planner by pressing the F4 button and the navigation menu on our MobiGlass. Our first goal is the space station, which is located above the capital Lowville. Simply by clicking on the space station and set destination, we set a course and get then the destination displayed. However, as I said, we plan our route by pressing the F4 key. Here we can get a larger view with the skyline, and with the mouse wheel or by holding the left mouse button, however turns the map in this way, we'll get the perspective we need. When we have selected a target, then we simply press nothing with one click. Then all points will be visible again. Every target point that we can jump to. As soon as we selected a target point, all others disappear. If we now spool our quantum drive with a click on the B button, we activate our faster than light engines. They charge what we see in the percentage display above. On the left we also see another display for the calibration. As soon as the spooling and calibrations are complete, we can take a direct leap. In the 100 series, for example, we also have the option of using the individual buttons again. We see our calibration and the spooling is complete. Should we lose sight of our goal or lock in the wrong direction, then the whole thing has to be recalibrated, which we have done here again. By holding down the B button, we jump. This jump was of course relatively short, but this is exactly the same procedure as for more distant targets. We activate the cruise control with the C key for the approach to the station. We see the little hooks under the white line. If this is activated, the specific speed is maintained automatically. Then we don't have to worry about whether we give it a boost or not. Our ship does it automatically. However, we use the approach to the station to discuss a little more detail. In fact, we see two small white triangles in the HUD which point to each other. These are currently in the middle, and when we move our ship they relate in the direction in which we are moving. And this means it shows in which direction our ship is moving. Even if we change direction abruptly, they still point in the direction in which the momentum continues. Our ship always flies to where these two little triangles point. Here, for example, we can only get our ship back on course by operating the thrust nozzles. Even in the case of a counter movement, we see that our origin is shown in the opposite direction with this symbol. All through it is darker. If we push against the origin here, we see how these two small triangles pull up again, so go in our direction with a corresponding push. Now you know everything that is necessary to move your ship from A to B. We are now using one of our multifunction displays to request a landing request for the space station. You can do this either directly via the multifunctional display or your ship, or again by pressing the F1 key at the comlink. The F11 key takes you directly to communication. As soon as we have such a landing clearance, we get a mark where you should land. And if we should look in the wrong direction, for example, we will see this little blue triangle which always points in the direction where our target is. This is also for activated targets or opponents, but then in the red color. In the end, to land we have the same work steps as for the takeoff, but in reverse order. That means we are approaching here, whereby we do not have to watch out for any corridors at space stations. We can freely choose our approach route here. Be careful not to be too fast, and with the X key you can use the space brake. See here, our landing gear is not extended. There is a small white point missing, which indicates. That means we press the key N or the toggle switch in the menu to extend our landing gear. If you touch down without landing gear, your ship is not automatically destroyed, but we have the problem that the landing is recognized as incomplete. We cannot have our ship stored in this way, we have to request it again, which involves waiting. Another refueling and repairing. Hover just above the landing pad, and if you go to your MobiGlass via F1 key and then to maintenance services, you can repair and fill up your fuel. And depending on your choice, you will be repaired, refueled and ammunitioned if necessary. We now see here how our supplies are replenished. We have received confirmation of landing and could now simply deactivate our ship by switching off the engines or switching off the entire ship. All systems are shut down with power off, with the engines, which can also be operated using the I button, for example, only your engines are deactivated. With the Z button you can get out of your pilot's seat again. If we now have something to do at the station, for example a mission or shopping, we can leave our ship and go to the station. However, a warning: should you leave the ship and not wear a space helmet, it can be fatal relatively quickly in a vacuum. That means your character will not get any oxygen and you will die. You always respawn at the point at which we last received clearance to land. In our case, after we have already cleared the landing here, we would not be in Lowville on the planet, respawned here on the space station. Since the respawn system is currently linked to a landing requirement, the last point with a landing confirmation is always decisive. However, we don't want to buy anything and we don't have a mission yet. We are going to tackle it now. With pressing the R key we make our ship flight ready again and we take a look at the missions that are currently available for us. Here we open our MobiGlass by pressing the F1 key, and in the contract manager we see several tabs here. The General, the Personal, the Accepted, the History and the Beacon tab. The General tab is of interest to us at the beginning, as we only get missions here that are legal. We therefore have no problems with the police or other institutions here. Since the mission portfolio is very diverse, that is delivery missions, the search for missing people and wrecks, ground combat operations and much more, I would recommend the tutorials and guides available for this, which you can see in the YouTube channel, of course. Today in this tutorial we are dealing with an important part, namely the entry into the bounty hunter career. We have already seen here there are 2 bounty hunter missions that unlock us for a career as a bounty hunter. You will then unlock all further bounty hunter mission threats. For all other mission types there is a guide available in each case, which you can find in the channel and which then gives you all the information about these mission types. As soon as we accept the mission we receive it under Accepted. For example, we have accepted the mission A Call to Arms under the Mercenary, which will only bring us something if we will complete the 2 bounty hunter missions that we have now accepted. We see a few missions under the Personal tab, but these are still taboo for us at the beginning. The A Call to Arms mission gives us money for every enemy we shoot down who has a crime stat or is a criminal. The prerequisite for this, however, is that we complete the evaluation and the pro-term bounty contract, which means that we also prove ourselves as a bounty hunter. And that is why we are dealing with these missions today, in order to permanently activate this career path for your account. At least until the next big patch. Via the navigation menu, which we enter by pressing the F4 key, we have our view of where we can select the destination. The mission objectives can be seen as glowing markers. We can select them and set a course. And our computer automatically set jump points to our destination. Here we have, for example, Aberdeen, just 70,000 kilometers away, a small moon on which rock mining is currently very profitable. And here around the planet we also get to see our bounty. Hold down the B key a little longer and we get our quantum drive and jump to our first target point. After we have reached this, we will be directed to a navigation buoy. That is, a navigation buoy, as our target is on the back of the planet. If we align ourselves with it, we can take the next jump point. These buoys are distributed over each planet and we can jump to them for navigation. even if we don't have a goal or a mission. The last jump point then leads us directly into the mission area to our destination. Depending on the size or difficulty of the mission, you have to fight several opponents here. You should definitely be ready for the last point of battle before jumping in. It is also possible to approach slowly and quietly without jumping into it, but you have a longer approach here. We can already see a marking here, a red one. That means nothing good, and by pressing the T key we can select a targeted target that is in the direction in which we are looking. On the subject of target system and space combat, I also recommend a specialized video for this, which you can find in the channel. Since our ship is equipped with weapons that have a gimbal, that is a sighting device, we can keep this aiming mode by pressing the G key. If you see the circle in the middle, your weapons are automatically aimed, which means that always try to stab the target. With the green confirmation, our weapons hit that target. And if you now press the left mouse button, shoot your ship's weapons. And of course, there is also a separate video on the subject of ship weapons, equipment, and as well as the general functions and how the whole thing is structured. If you are interested in further information or tips and how you can develop our effectiveness, and you are welcome to take a look. In this case here, it would be possible to attach one level larger weapons to the 125A. These are then no longer gimbaled and you have to aim yourself, but these are definitely more powerful and have more bang. Our first goal has been achieved and we have received the Bounty Hunter authorization. And that means we can call ourselves Bounty Hunter. We also received a small reward of 2000 UEC and the whole thing has definitely been lucrative. We can now see under the Bounty Hunter missions that we are already getting the first CS1 vision. That means that is the easiest variant, these go up to CS4 and there you are the opponent more and definitely a little more difficult. However, we still have a second mission that we have to complete as a bounty hunter, namely the pro-term contract. Here we get another 2000 UEC and that is the second mission that we should carry out. So that we finally get a complete activation as a hunter, and on the other hand the call to arms mission can be paid. We are looking for our mission goal here again. We can then set a course and ultimately jump into the mission area. If you jump to the wrong point on several missions, as we can see here, we are creating a different route. And simply set a new course to our actual mission goal, then we also get the opportunity to jump straight to your goal. The whole thing is still a bit tricky, that means there is sometimes a problem like here that we cannot set a route. It is worth zooming in and out a bit and circling a bit in the area of the marker. Then you also get the possibility to set a route. The whole thing has been known for a long time and definitely needs a little revision. We are now here in our final destination. We already have a radar socket, that is the red light, that means someone has activated us and registered us as a target. Who this is, we check with the scanner and press the tab key. With the scanner we can scan with the left mouse button, then we know who it is. Our target has a crime set of 4, and with the call to arms mission, which we originally assumed, we also get a special payment of 700 UEC if we switch this target off. By pressing the T key when we are looking at the target, we can mark it and also complete our next bounty mission. You are not limited to fighting in the cockpit, especially with gimbal weapon it is very possible to fight from the outside. The whole thing looks nice and is also fun. With the F4 key we are in the outside view and can control our fight and our ship that way. And with the completion of the second mission we come to the second part of the guide. We are now looking at how we can build up a good foundation for the UEC relatively quickly, even without a lot of equipment, expensive ships or a lot of experience. And for this we take a somewhat unconventional approach. However, we need some preparation and we landed back in Lowell and will stock up on the bare essentials here. We go shopping at Tammy & Sons. If you already have a Pembroke Novicore or a MacFlex backpack, you can skip this step and jump straight to the next step. We don't go in the direction of the metro, but in the other direction to go shopping. Tammy & Sons is our goal, and we will find the whole thing together. We keep right here in the direction of the admin office, then go down left. We already see Tammy & Sons signposted, that's our goal. There we get a spacesuit with storage facility. After the tunnel we go to the right and are already at Tammy & Sons. And there we need some of our 5000 bonus UEC, which we have redeemed via the referral code. Namely, we buy basic equipment here. Again, the hind should the chat disturb, you press the F12 key here, you can simply switch the chat off and on, and you will not be disturbed in the game. We are interested in spacesuits in the shop. We can either shop via the terminal or click on the items directly to try them on and ultimately buy them. Depending how many UECs you have available, we either buy a MacFlex, which is the yellow one, or the right one, the Pembroke. This is a little more expensive and we need around 50,000 UEC for the suit with a helmet. However, we will recoup this investment in a very short time. So as a rule of thumb, if you have enough UEC, buy the Pembroke. If you only have the starting capital of around 6,000 UEC, then the MacFlex. The Pembroke suit has a capacity of 130 and we can get a lot of material in here. The suits are also made for different temperatures. For example, the Pembroke is made for the heat and the Novicore, which you can buy on New Babbage, is made for the cold. And you can find the suits under undersuits, only the helmets can be found under armor. We can also buy a couple of magazines for our standard pistol right here. Their cost 8 UEC and you can definitely put 10 magazines in there. At Tammy & Sons we also get basic equipment, which is always an advantage, namely the Greycat multi-tool, with an attachment for hand mining and a cutter. We can use this not only for mining but also later to open doors or to damage something else with it. And since the coasts are limited here, you can definitely strike. We simply put the multi-tool with the 2 on in the shopping cart. In addition, there is another gadget at Tammy & Sons that should get both here, namely the med pens. The med pens give real hit points and heal injuries, and of course you are not automatically doomed to die with a wound. You can take a few with you here, but only if your budget allows it. So we would have bought the optimal equipment together, but if you only have 6,000 UEC available for the start, we will buy this good piece. This is the MacFlex rucksack. It has a lower carrying capacity, but in any case it is sufficient at the beginning to quickly save a lot of capital in order to then upgrade to the Pembroke. The most important item here is definitely the body armor with the backpack. The other items you see here are not absolutely necessary. That means we have an investment of at least 3,100 UEC and are equipped for what we are planning now. We see the MacFlex has a little less than half the carrying capacity as the Pembroke, but it only costs a fraction. What we have to do next is to take on a mission under our contract manager. Under the tab Mercenary we find the mission Remove Claim Jumpers. This is actually in every area on every planet and it doesn't matter where you accept this mission. Once you have this mission, we will have everything we need for our trip. It doesn't matter which ship is used for this, it is possible to do the whole thing in a Mustang Alpha, an Aurora or even an 890 jump. In any case we will fly to the mission area that the Claim Jumper mission offers us. There we approach a good distance until the enemies who are in this area aim at us and start shooting. Then, however, we should leave our ship. That is either via the ejection seat on fighter jets or we simply leave the ship as normal via the doors. Also, those flying too close to the defense cannons should not, as they have relatively good firepower and hit stationary targets quite well anyway and do damage. The only thing you have to watch out for is if you are about to get out of the ship and an enemy is right behind you and is shooting in that direction. Then you will probably blast the temporal, but that is usually very unlikely. If you observe the whole thing, you can safely get out of your ship without being shot at any direction. I'm supposed to be 300 meters away from your ship, then you are safe from a possible explosion. And also before the encircling enemies. And we have reached the first goal. Our ship has been destroyed. After your ship was destroyed, all attackers are in a sleep mode again, so to speak. There is no longer any danger for you. That means there is no ship that you have to attack. And we as a little man floating in space are of course no danger. That's why we take one of the prospectors, a mining ship, and we are aiming precisely at this mining head. And since the pilot is still buzzy, mentally coping with the fact that he's such a bad pirate, we can use the opportunity and take over the ship. We enter the ship through the side door as normal, and we can use it if it were our own or that of a team member. However, there are restrictions that ensure that we don't feel too much at home. But more on that later in more detail. We even have the option to log out there, but that's not what we want. Namely, we want the pilot seat in the Prospector. It is a bit difficult to get the pilot out of his seat, so I'll show you what happens when you try the whole thing with a gun. From this angle the whole thing does not go to the pilot but into the ship, so go in front of the pilot and duck. Towards the leg and lower the body you have the possibility to influence the pilot, but close combat is advantageous here. Just hit the lower part of the body until the pilot falls out of his seat.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
So just have to ask friendly and then you get a prospector. As soon as you sit in the pilot's seat, all opponents will be switched back to you, which means that they will target you and will fire at you relatively quickly. Therefore, as soon as we sit in the ship, we will accelerate and try to get out of the mission area. However, the protective shields of the prospector are still on and we definitely have the opportunity to get away relatively easily and quickly. After it is a bit strange that we have a dead person in our prospector, we use the new body drag function to probably dispose of it. Your friend can sleep in peace here and we can take care of the big money. Regarding the mentioned hooks, this prospector is intended for mining and you can also use the mining laser with it, but of course CIG has come up with something, since otherwise everyone could easily abuse a free ship for mining. Here again briefly summarized, although we can happen like this asteroid crack, the catch is here that we cannot collect the whole thing. The cargo capacity remains at 0 and that we cannot sell the whole thing. But as my mother said, I didn't raise any idiots, we still have a possibility to use the prospector for our purposes. Namely, we use the prospector for the stones that actually intended for the rock mining. These can be cracked very quickly and easily with the prospector's mining head, but collecting them is not possible here either. But that's why we have our Pembroke, Novicore or Magflex. However, you really have to be careful when mining with the prospector and demonstrate a sure instinct in mining. But there is also a special video on this topic that deals with rock mining and the prospector, and I can only recommend it to you. However, we first put on our Pembroke or Magflex, depending on the order of magnitude you bought. We will first crush the stone. As a persistence per stone that it cracks, you have filled about a half a Pembroke, and for a Magflex a single occurrence from the whole suit is enough. In addition, in the currency version of the game you still have the option to stowing a few stones in your character yourself, in its self-storage. It's no big deal, but there are up to 2000 UEC that can also be accommodated here. The whole thing also works, as I said, with a MagFlex rucksack, which only has a little less capacity. We can simply invite the stones here, as if we were doing hand mining, and stow them in our rucksack. It works relatively well and above all quickly. We did this on a test server here. The whole thing took a long time, and I would recommend you to choose a server that is in your region, as this query runs via the database and here the ping is decisive. We did this on a test server. The whole thing took a relatively long time, and I would recommend you to choose a server that is in your region, since this query runs via the database and the ping is decisive here. Means via the server with a good ping you have loaded everything in 6 to 8 minutes and can sell everything at the nearby outpost as usual. As soon as you are stolen a prospector, you have to calculate around 10 to 15 minutes per round, and with a small MagFlex backpacks you can definitely earn almost 50,000 UEC per round. Especially for a newcomer or a beginner without big ships, that's a considerable amount of UEC that you can generate. And finally, another tip: there are still one or the other pirate ship that is worth taking a closer look. Some even have a gunner in the turret who fights for you. Should you just take the ship with you, have fun with it. I hope you enjoyed the video and you leave me a like and a subscribe here. When you activate the bell, you will automatically receive every new video and you don't have to search long for it. I hope the guide was beginner friendly and was understandable so far. I hope you had fun watching it, and I took forward to your comments and remarks. I'm also happy if you stop by the Discord. There you have the opportunity to look for like-minded people or take a part in events that we regularly organize. And I also want to point out again to starhangar.com, where you can get ships and items safely and often cheaper than in the PledgeStore. And if you're looking for a game key, take a look at cdkeys.com. You can find the links below in the video description, as always, for Starhangar and the others. And of course I can only recommend GameGlass to you. There is 5% on everything with the link in the description, and with GameGlass and Star Citizen or Elite Dangerous you have a real added value in the game. At this point, a reference to the current giveaways. There are the new Tavern War uniform in white as a giveaway, and the complete game Cyberpunk 2077 for the PC from GOG next month. This draw ends in November, that means the giveaway ends at the end of November, and all videos that have been published up to that point from the last draw and that are provided with a comment would automatically take part in the draw. And if you are a visible subscriber, you automatically participate. I look forward to your suggestions and always say, as usual, see you in the verse.